years ago, former Queer Eye star and interior designer Tom Felicia donated his bone marrow to his brother, who is diagnosed with myelofibrosis. This is a complex blood cancer that affects about 25,000 people in the U.S. And we are thrilled that Tom is with us today to tell us the story, along with Dr. Kirkendall, to discuss a new GSK initiative called Mapping Myelofibrosis, which helps raise awareness of this blood cancer. So Tom, let's start with you. So tell me the story. What was your role in helping your brother?
So 10 years ago, my brother was diagnosed with myelofibrosis, and it was, it came out of left field. We didn't expect this. He certainly didn't. And it was a big unknown. And we had never heard of it before. We didn't know what to expect from it. And it was very hard at that time to get any information about myelofibrosis. And we were kind of, trying to support and help my brother through this process. And it wasn't really until I was identified pretty quickly into his diagnosis to be his bone marrow donor. And when I was kind of brought into the inner circle with his doctors and his caregivers that were taking care of him at that time. And I was then sort of brought into it, and it was really difficult to, even explain what my brother was going through with other people, because no one really understood what it was and what we were up against. And there were really no resources. So the reason that I've teamed up with GSK on this initiative is that Mapping Myelofibrosis, the initiative, I think is really important because it is created a website, which is mappingmf.com. And you can also go to Mapping Myelofibrosis on Facebook. But the website is a place where there are stories and a community connection and a way to sort of, first of all, not feel like you're alone in the world, and get all of the information and the education and the resources that you need, whether you're a patient or someone that's helping a friend or a loved one go through this process. I wish we had it when I was going through it, because it would have been an incredible resource for myself and my family, and even friends of mine that were wondering what was I doing and what was this. So I think it's an important initiative, and I'm really proud to be a part of this and working with the GSK team to make, sort of create the awareness of myelofibrosis.
Well, let's turn to Dr. Kirkendall and explain myelofibrosis. What is it? What's unique about the disease?
Yeah, so myelofibrosis is actually a chronic blood disease or a chronic blood cancer. And really it comes from when you have these mutations in your blood cells that cause you to overproduce or try to overproduce blood cells. And so we call it a kind of an overproduction issue. And all that overproduction of blood cells in the bone marrow can lead to inflammation and actually scarring in the bone marrow, which then makes it very difficult to make blood cells appropriately. So you make too much of some, not enough of others. That inflammation and scarring in the bone marrow can actually spur you to make blood cells in other locations, like the spleen, so it can lead to enlarged spleen. It can also lead to symptoms like fevers and chills, night sweats, bone pain, weight loss. And I think what's unique about this disease is that there's a variety of symptoms, and it really doesn't present the same way multiple times, right? Like patients can have the same diagnosis but have wildly different symptoms, and that can be quite challenging when you're dealing with a rare disease. And so, as Tom mentioned with his brother, you have someone who gets this diagnosis, and that can be a very challenging time. And what you want to do is understand as much as you can about the disease, but I think sometimes it's hard to get that information with rare diseases. And so that's one of the things this initiative does with mappingmf.com, is it creates a one-stop shop for patients, family members, caregivers, even physicians who may not see this as much, to go and get information, understand the disease better. And I think different people are going to use the website in different ways, and that's kind of the purpose, right? I think no one patient is created the same, no one situation is created the same, and this gives those patients and those caregivers a resource to really feel more empowered as how to feel part of their care team.
Are there people who are more at risk?
Not necessarily. Typically, we do diagnose this in patients that are in their kind of 60s and 70s. But really, this can affect young patients as well. And so it's really not something that affects a specific demographic or patient population in isolation. And so, and given the fact that it can present in a variety of different ways, it's one of the reasons we really encourage patients to stay closely connected with their primary care physicians, get appropriate screening and lab testing. When you're not feeling well, certainly open up and talk to your physicians about that, because ultimately, this disease can overlap with many other things and can present in a variety of different ways. And so it's something that it's not necessarily one path for one specific patient of how this can get diagnosed.
And you talked about how the signs and symptoms were different per individual. So are there any common signs or symptoms, or what can somebody look for?
Yeah, so I think that there's not like a quote unquote typical patient, I would say. I think a variety of ways that patients can present. Some can just notice it on blood work, where they go get routine blood work. There's abnormalities and they may get referred to a hematologist. Other patients may feel poorly, right? Fatigue, tiredness, fever, chills, night sweats. Those are types of symptoms that will also make you present to your physician and get some blood work done that may shine a light on this diagnosis. Others, it may have abdominal pain or an enlarged spleen, which is a rare thing to occur, but something that also may take you into the physician. So there's not necessarily one thing to watch out for, but overall, I think people just need to be aware of their health and stay routinely connected to their primary care physician and get appropriate blood work and labs and screening done. And so, in that way, ultimately, we will find this diagnosis.
Yeah, I was just thinking how important it is to get those annual physicals, because sometimes these things show up early. They do the blood work and, before the symptoms start to show up. How do you suggest talking to a doctor about this?
Honestly, I think just be open about how you feel and what symptoms you're having. I think that really no different than any other disease in that sense is, if you're having symptoms and it's something that you've noticed and you're talking to your physician, be honest and open about it, right? There's no shame in kind of talking about what you're feeling. That's what doctors are there for. And so, I think that's really what I would encourage is keeping that line of communication open and being open and honest with yourself about how you're feeling, with your family members. And also, if you notice it in your family member, you notice your family member's not feeling that well and they're kind of reluctant to go to their physician, it's an opportunity to go with them to these appointments and be their own advocate. And that's one of the things that this initiative does, is it really not only empowers patients, but it empowers the support group for patients, right? Those caregivers that may say, hey, no, something's different, and I want to be able to help. And going to mappingmf.com allows those caregivers to get those resources and that education as well.
Yeah. Tom, let's talk to you. What an amazing experience that you went through and did for your brother. And what project do you have in the works now?
Well, first and foremost, we are actually celebrating my brother's 10th anniversary because it's been 10 years since his bone marrow transplant.
Great.
And so he's healthy and well, and that's really great. But yes, I am. I have my interior design company in New York City, Tom Felicia Incorporated. I also have my Tom Felicia Home Collection, which is all of our products and furniture and textiles and case goods and all of those different things. And then I also have my showroom in New York City, Sedgwick and Brattle. So we've been very busy. We've had a really exciting and busy year, but teaming up with GSK on this initiative was something that was really important to me, because mapping myelofibrosis and mappingmf.com means a lot to me, because I really know firsthand what it felt like to be completely in the dark, and having the ability to create awareness about myelofibrosis and giving people a resource like mappingmf.com or Mapping Myelofibrosis on Facebook, I think is going to make a big difference.
Yeah, sure will. So thank you so much. So glad to hear your brother's doing well.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, doctor, for all of your information.
Thank you so much.
Thanks.